Welcome to the Casa Sol Psychology Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole San Martin, trauma and ADHD therapist and registered mental health counselor intern here in Miami, Florida. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about something a little bit controversial. Are newer therapists actually doing the best work? But Nicole, aren't more experienced therapists supposed to be better? And that's what you would assume, but it's not actually the case. There's something way more important that predicts good therapy outcomes, and that is the quality of the therapeutic relationship. So you might be wondering, what does make therapy effective? And what does make therapy effective is that relationship between the therapist and the client, and how understood, heard, and connected that the client feels to the therapist. This is what research shows is the absolute of utmost importance, more than anything else, more than years of experience, more than the type of therapy either. And apart from the research, I've also found this to be my personal experience. And ask anyone who's had a positive experience in therapy, they probably felt connected and that they really clicked with their therapist. Ask anyone that had a more negative experience in therapy, it's more likely that they weren't really as connected to the therapist. So why does the research show that newer therapists are doing some of the best work in the field? And that's simply because, not because they're younger or newer, but what the being new offers is that you haven't been burnt out yet. Even though younger or newer therapists are more likely to be exploited, underpaid, overworked, simply your energy hasn't run out yet. And unfortunately, that is something that over the course of a career in mental health, you can be worn down and burnt out, and that directly affects client outcomes. And so what do I mean by burnout? Obviously, not just being tired. You've probably heard this term before. It's being emotionally exhausted. And this can happen not just to therapists, but to anybody. I've been burnt out before. I will do everything in my power to never feel that again. It is not just being emotionally exhausted in your job, but in your entire life, with your family, and even with your friends. The crazy thing is how common it is to be burnt out or to leave the mental health field. In fact, 1 in 4 therapists consider leaving or actually leave the field. That is an insane statistic, 25%. That shows it's not just an issue that some therapists are having because of personal issues or whatever it may be, but rather a truly systemic issue. And I know a lot of people are wondering, because I used to too, why is it so hard to find a good therapist that takes my insurance? And the reality is there's so many amazing therapists that are not able to show up as their best therapist selves because they're being underpaid and overworked. That is because the insurances may underpay therapists. And on top of that, if you're working at an agency, they take a cut from that as well. So when you're being underpaid, you have to work more hours to be able to make a living. There's a lot of therapists that are not able to focus solely on their clients' well-being, but rather focusing on having to pay their bills or just surviving and trying to manage their burnouts. The work we do as therapists is not just the 1 hour in session, but there's a lot of notes, research, and mental energy that you spend on your clients, ideally, right, outside of session. So I really want to be able to offer that to my clients and be able to be really proud of the work that I do and feel satisfied that I'm helping my clients create real, substantial change. So why am I doing private practice as a registered mental health counselor intern? So this isn't super common, although it is allowed, but I'm doing it because I'm intentional about preventing burnout. I'm not going to see more than 20 clients a week, because when you see 20 clients a week, it's not 20 hours of work. There's a lot of work that happens outside of session, ideally, right? And I want to be able to work that extra time for my clients to do the additional research if need be, consult with other professionals, do additional training, and really give my clients my absolute all. So what needs to change in the field? There need to be systemic changes, especially from these money-hungry insurances and mental health agencies that are really more worried about their profit margins more than anything else. If they were to care about their clients' well-being and their therapist well-being, I argue they would even be able to make more money in the long run, because therapy would simply become more popular if everyone's having a more positive experience. What can therapists do in the meantime? This is, of course, easier said than done, but therapists should be setting more boundaries, protecting their peace, seeking ongoing consultation as early on as they can, and not waiting until they're already burnt out. And what should you take away from this as a client? And I want you to know that when you're looking for a therapist, you need to be shopping around for them, speaking to more than one therapist in order to find that person that is really going to understand you, that you click with, that you're going to enjoy your sessions, because the research shows that's the most important thing when it comes to resolving what you're struggling with. In my own experience, the first therapist I ever had, I did not like at all. I did not get anywhere with him, and it was pretty soon that I thought to myself, well, maybe therapy just isn't for me. Maybe therapy can't help me. But that's, of course, not the case. Luckily, a few years later, I had a new therapist that was wonderful, that I really clicked with, and that it was able to help me so much. And I was finally able to open up and be able to talk about and discuss what was really going on with me and be able to see real change. That is actually what inspired me to become a therapist. Since I was 16, I've had a passion for this field, and everything I have done since then has been to become a therapist today. So are newer therapists better? Not necessarily, because correlation is not causation. And the correlation is not really with therapists being newer, but not being burnt out, having the humility to seek supervision and consultation and help from others, and having just more energy and more mental capacity to give to their clients. So please, if you take away anything from today, it's that therapy effectiveness is most related to presence, connection, and intentionality, and not so much related to years of experience. Some newer therapists are doing such strong work because they still have the capacity to do so, and it takes a lot of work and intentionality to be able to sustain that over an entire career. I hope this episode gave you a glimpse behind the curtain of the mental health field and why therapists structure their work in the way that they do, and why that matters for you as the client and for their well-being as a therapist. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Gasasol Psychology Podcast. If you want to hear more, make sure that you subscribe and feel free to leave a comment or a review. You can also follow me on socials. I'm on Instagram, Nicole Therapy, or TikTok, Nicole.therapy. And there I talk about everything trauma, ADHD, and mental health, just like on my podcast. I'm Nicole San Martin, trauma and ADHD therapist, and I will see you guys next time.